So awkward. Showing up in conversation. I've had a couple of experiences recently that have really made me want to grow in like how to talk to people, how to have a conversation. Some people seem so good at it, don't they? Maybe if you've talked to me, you've thought, oh, your man's amazing at conversation. Or maybe you've thought the opposite, I don't know. I kind of go back and forth because sometimes it's really easy with certain people, right? It's like, oh, it's so easy to talk to this person. Other people, it's not. It's so awkward. I go, I don't, and then I'm trying to remember in the midst of the conversation, how do you talk to people? There's something, I say stuff and then they say stuff, but am I talking too, I'm talking too much. It's all about me. And I want to ask them, okay, what's going on with you? And it doesn't go anywhere. So there's loads of ways, right? I could be talking too much, they could be talking too much. I'm not listening, they're not listening. Or here's one. Sometimes in order to connect, if someone shares something, I try to think of a way in which there's something in my life that's similar. And then I share that. And it gets awkward because it's like they said something and I go, oh yeah. I've that thing, it's really similar. And they say something else. I'm like, oh, wow, dang it. So awkward. So I'm not going to try and hit everything about how to have amazing conversations because I don't know them. But as I learn them, I'll pass them on, okay? That's usually how I work. Oh, this is amazing. I'll tell my friends on the interwebs. So today I'm just going to touch on one thing, which is this thing of how to turn up in conversations. This won't apply to everybody, but it's the experience of being in a conversation with somebody and suddenly realizing or asking the question like, where am I? Realizing I'm not being myself right now. For me, this is typically that the other person is sharing everything and I've sort of disappeared inside of me. And I'm not saying that they're dominating. I'm saying that I'm not contributing. I'm not engaging. I'm just listening. I've gone super passive. Now, part of my job as a priest involves that. Sometimes it's not like a peer-to-peer conversation. I'm in the role of a serving role. I'm there to listen and maybe give a little something at the end. So that's different from a peer-to-peer conversation. And the thing I want to speak into now is a peer-to-peer. At least on the surface level, there shouldn't be any discrepancy of power. It shouldn't be that one person is the one holding all the knowledge, like a teacher, and then everyone else, or the other person who's been talked to is the student. Turning up in conversations. So you're talking to somebody, and maybe they're pretty good at conversation. They're willing to listen. They're asking, hey, how are you? What's going on for you? And they're sharing some stuff and talking. But for some reason, you feel like you're not really present. You feel like you can't. The thought of really contributing in this situation just can't even imagine it, or you're too uncomfortable with that. So I've had this happen sometimes where I'm sitting there chatting with somebody and I'm kind of finding it maybe difficult. And I realize as I sort of become a bit more self-aware or try to be in that moment, it's like, where am I right now? I obviously would know where I am geographically, but that's not what I mean by my question. What I mean is, where's my heart? Why amn't I me in this conversation? And this has been situations where the other person they have been a good conversationalist and they're healthy and engaging and open to a dialogue, I can tell. But the problem is with my heart. And for some reason, I've gone inside and gone quiet. Like a child they're shy and they're maybe slightly hiding behind the couch and they're definitely not their usual self because there's someone new in the room and they're not totally comfortable. It's almost like that. So there could be different reasons for this. Definitely I have a couple myself why this happens. But I think the main thing that I would recommend, and I've said similar things like this recently, just about becoming aware of our emotions and then how to properly guide them and sort of parent our heart into a healthier direction. So the first thing is to become aware of it. You might only become aware of it after the fact. You might notice that after conversations you're exhausted or you don't want to have conversations with anybody or with certain people. That might be a sign, and so it could be good to stop and maybe take a look back over the conversation, say, right, what was up? And see if this was the issue. Oh, wow, where was I in that conversation? Was I engaging? So you might find after the fact, or you might find during the fact. You might be in the midst of it and suddenly realize, where are you, Columba? You could use your own name rather than mine. That would be probably healthier. So becoming aware is step number one. Then I would say having a little conversation with yourself. I have talked in other talks about this. By that I mean sort of examining your heart. I find kind of dialoguing with myself, talking at myself, to myself, helpful in this process. I kind of go, Where are you right now, Columba? Like, where's your heart? Why am I feeling so numb? Often for me, if I feel numb, it's fear. I may not feel fear itself in the moment. I might now be like, oh my God, I'm terrified. Instead of that, it's just, I feel kind of blank. So I've learned to kind of go, right, this might actually be fear that sort of repressed all the feelings. So sometimes anyway, back to the bigger picture, I find I'm not showing up because I've got some fear. And I find it best to address that firstly internally, then maybe be vulnerable enough to share that with them, or to just push against the fear entirely and start to act contrary to it, as St. Ignatius would counsel us in his Discernment of Spirits, to agere contra, act contrary to the fear, act contrary to, if there's some, like he's talking about, like deceptions or lies of the enemy. To act contrary, to push against the fear is always a fairly good rule of thumb. To just try to take one little step in the conversation, to be more present, to be more yourself, to connect more, to be a bit more vulnerable, to throw your thoughts and opinion in there. Guys, if we don't share our hearts, then we are denying something to the world. You are a revelation of God's heart. You're a revelation of something of who He is. And that shines through you like light shines through a stained glass window into a church. Nobody else reveals that aspect of God like you do. You're a totally unique revelation. And this revelation comes through you just following Christ and then living, being yourself. This doesn't mean that, all of our opinions are, infallibly inspired, far from it. But it does mean we need to show up. We need to be vulnerable. We need to be ourselves. And I really want to encourage you to do what you need to do to be more yourself in your friendships and your connections with people, because you're really important. You're really beautiful in so many ways, and especially in this way in which you are a revelation of something of the heart of God. Yeah, so this even comes down to giving my dad would say, our tuppence halfpenny in conversation, to grab the mic every now and again. Say, hey, I have a thought, when you need to get in there. Yeah, I was just thinking. And then if they just keep blabbing on, just to interrupt them, say, hey, there's two people here. Shut your mouth. Yeah, and that is really important, that you're really important. Be yourself. Don't be afraid to shine a little bit for Christ's glory and to show up. God bless you. Hope that's helpful. It's been helpful to me, I think.